ASA. Game on daily.
Welcome to the world of Q&A. So before I started, I did not check that my microphone was actually working, which is a critical failing, but I got lucky. It's working. You can hear me. I can't hear you, but I can read what you're saying. So welcome, Painful Discourse, Peter Smallland, Isla KY, Chris Blackburn, and anybody else that's waiting already. These are the early people that are here waiting for me to start. So thank you for turning up all of these weeks. Always is appreciated. But this week more so than ever, because I haven't really got a freaking clue what I'm talking about this week. MG, and there's a name I haven't seen here before. Welcome. So what we do on Q&A, sir, is we have quite a nice little back and forth conversation. And normally I have a nice bit of structure and some topics lined up, but I take a lot from you as well to keep a conversation going. I'm going to lean on you heavier this week because most of the stuff that I've got to cover is like Nintendo things, and you know I'm not really a big Nintendo person. I don't play a whole lot. But before we get into all of that, gotta have a word from our sponsor. It's still me. It's always me. Our sponsor is Game On Daily. It's a website. It's a platform. It's a news aggregation thing where you can find people, find creators. Hopefully they can find you. You can connect. You can get all the gaming news and find some quality things. That's the plan in a way. As I always say, fair amount of work still going into that, fair amount of development that is going to happen, but it needs all the love it can get to help us get it there. Yeah. So let's start like we always do. Give you money, not love. I hope everyone's got sufficient custard. I see the demand for custard before we begin. So I hope you're all ready. You've got all the custard and snacks that you need. We're going to talk about games, and we're going to talk about, like we always do, we're going to talk about the games that we've been playing for the week. But again, I'm going to come up really short. I've had a terrible week for playing games. I've played almost nothing for the entire week, which means like the rest of the show today, gonna need to know exactly what you've been playing, what you think of it. You're gonna need to recommend things for me. I'm short. Yeah, nobody knows how tall I am. You be quiet. Painful Discourse has finished Hi-Fi Rush and loved it. So Hi-Fi Rush is one of the few games that I have put a little bit of time into this week, but since it shadow dropped, I can't remember if it's 2 or 3 weeks ago, I'm probably one of the only people in the world that hasn't finished it by now, like that's actually into that game. I'm only 3 bosses in, so I'm not doing very well. I have not smashed my toes. My feet are also a bit of a state for various reasons, but this is not a show about feet because I'm not sure YouTube likes those, and I'm not sure I like those. This is more about the games. You finished Tinykin. I've heard some people love Tinykin, and I've looked at it and I don't fully understand why. So maybe Chris, you can tell us what makes Tinykin good. I'm going to find a little trailer for that. That's something to watch. I know General C, Connor, was a big fan of Tinykin, and several other people as well. Tinykin, and this is outrageous, but the first trailer that's come up is the PlayStation one. So I'm going to show the PlayStation Tinykin trailer, even though it is an Xbox Game Pass thing. So I'm seeing 3D platforming, which makes me fairly immediately not that interested in the game. I can appreciate its style. I like the blend of 3D and 2D cartoon thing that it's doing. It's not exactly totally unique and original, but it looks nice. But it looks very much like a 3D platformer. Tell me there's more to it than 3D platformer, so that I understand. Peter, you finished Somerville. You loved the game, but the interface was rubbish and spoiled it. But is it about 4 hours long, Peter? Is that true? Because people have told me that it's short enough that I should just get on with it. One of the things that I have resolved to do, for my own sake as much as anything, is to get back to streaming a little bit more, because when I stream games, I actually play games. It makes things happen. So there will be some more streaming, and games like that don't take quite as long are a good bet. It's very difficult to stream a 100-hour open world behemoth of a game. with any purpose behind it. But things like Somerville, I could definitely get on and do those. MG, you're on your Dead Space remake second playthrough. So I have played Dead Space enough to... Oh, no one's guessed the background yet, and it's just totally said what it is. But I've played Dead Space, so I get the points this week for the background. I've played Dead Space enough to get to this quite well-known area of the game right at the start. Right at the start. That's how much I've played Dead Space. I've had it downloaded since it came out. I've got the PC version for the EA subscription. I got this far, and I've never played Dead Space before, so it was all quite new to me. The opening scenes are interesting. The enemies bring less tension than I expected, but I am in the first 20 minutes of the game. And it's quite fun, because as you know, if you have played Dead Space, the enemies that are in it, you're not supposed to shoot them in the head, you're supposed to shoot off their limbs and things instead. That's like signature of the game, that's written in blood in the background. And I like that, because I do that in games all the time anyway. Like, if I'm playing GoldenEye and there are human enemies standing around, if I have the option to shoot them in the legs, then I absolutely do. Because who doesn't like to see how they react to being shot in the legs before their end? Play it at night with the lights off, headphones on is a must. MG, I will do that. I spent a long time not really touching horror games because I don't like stealth games in general, and stealth is fairly intrinsic to horror games. Not that I saw any of that in Dead Space so far. Don't think it even has a crouch button. But yeah, I would stream it if I play it, I think. And yes, headphones in, but I couldn't have all the lights off or no one would see me. Besides that though, Peter, you want to play the Dead Space remake, but you're prepared to wait until it hits Game Pass. Yes, and it will be between like 6 months and a year. It will come to Game Pass. It's on the EA service, so it will get there. How much that's hurt its sales in general, who knows? Patrick, welcome along. Joe as well. Hi-Fi Rush, you've got no rhythm, and the Halo Forge playlist in a Santa hat. So Hi-Fi Rush, I also am not gifted in the rhythm senses, but most of that game you can get through just fine without that. But I do find certain the parry combos, like the counter to this rhythm bits, I find those quite annoying. Not because I can't match the rhythm that it sets out. So if you haven't played it, you get like these little drones appear, and it gives you a rhythm that you have to match to parry their shots, and then they blow up. But the bit that I struggle with isn't matching the rhythm, because it is usually like a fairly simple beat, but it's knowing when to start, because they do their little bum 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 bum, and then you get these circles that converge, and I'm not sure what indicates the start of the combo. So I'm terrible at that game, but getting through it. GoldenEye, in your opinion, was rubbish. Did you miss something? Should you try again? No, Peter, don't try again. GoldenEye was good when it came out. It came out a long time ago. So it's weird playing it. So GoldenEye came out on the N64 where you didn't have 2 analog sticks, and it plays weirdly, I think, on the Xbox. It feels oddly sticky and far too easy, even on its harder difficulties. So no, I wouldn't go back and try it, but it's kind of interesting to look at. It's got some things that I like, some like old school level design and mechanics that I wish were still around. I don't like Call of Duty style health regeneration, or pretty much every first person shooter of the last 10 years. Like, you get shot a bit, you hide in cover, and you recover all of your health and you carry on. GoldenEye doesn't have that. GoldenEye, if you've started having your health chipped away, then you need to start being more careful, because it is not going to recover anyway. And I have the same thing with the Halo games. I really like the health system in the first Halo game, where you had a bit of an overshield that would recharge, and then you had health underneath that would chip away. And for some reason, the Halo series got rid of that. But GoldenEye still has a good old school health mechanic, and I liked it. Haven't played GoldenEye this week, though. Don't intend to play GoldenEye again. It's not much fun anymore. What else have we got? So those are the only things that I've touched. I've touched Hi-Fi Rush. I've touched Dead Space. I've not got far in either. I've not even really VR'd this week, which is very, very sad. I've got a little adapter so that I can use my VR treadmill when I'm playing native Quest games as well. And in theory, although it's not there yet, the little adapter will let me use my treadmill on the PlayStation VR when that is more established. So I'm not sure it'll be day one, but hopefully soon after I'll be able to treadmill around the PlayStation games as well. So that's exciting for me. Patrick, your wife convinced you to start a new playthrough of Skyrim. Was she trying to get rid of you? Like, do you not get along with your wife? I feel like respect to her strategic planning, because that'll do the trick. She's probably gone to like how long to beat and found the longest game she can find and said, Patrick, do me a favour. It's her favourite game. Fair enough. Fair enough. It is also a good way to get rid of you though, right? There's I don't know, Patrick, if you play on PC or not, there are mods that let you multiplayer Skyrim. She might love that. You can like go proper romantic and get a couple of PCs, a couple of Skyrims, mod it up and play together. And then you'll know if she's just trying to get away from you or not. Has anyone dived into Hogwarts? There's a good question. Because I just keep seeing people absolutely love it, but I staunchly dislike the Harry Potter universe. So, if any of you have been playing that, I'd be very curious to know what you think of it. John Rocks, if it works, I will definitely report on it and let you know what the deal is and how well it works. Dinner with Valentine. Oh yeah, it's nearly Valentine's Day, isn't it? It's nearly Valentine's Day. I have let my wife down often enough that she has no expectations for Valentine's Day, so that's a relief. That's a relief. You played some of the usuals. Shell Shock Live. What's Shell Shock Live? I've not heard of that one. I know Wreckfest. Wreckfest is quite fun as racing games outside of virtual reality go. And you've been playing the Inkaluminati. Why can't I say it? Illuminati in Inkluminati. That's what it's called. Is that what you've written? Inkluminati. Your slight misplace of a U there, I think, threw me badly. And Hot Wheels. I did a little video on Hot Wheels a while back. Hot Wheels and Forza on this little channel. Yes, Hot Wheels is a good game as non-VR racing games go as well. Ever read a Potter book? No, I only know Harry Potter from the films. I only know Harry Potter from the chocolate frogs love in your hands bullshit nonsense. I never got along with Harry Potter as a series, so which means I can conveniently very much sidestep all of the issues around like boycotts and bullying and things that are going on with that game. But I have seen other people that don't like the universe at all say that actually the open world and the combat are really good in it, particularly the combat, and I'm very curious about how the combat works. I'm not curious enough that I'm going to go and buy that game, but I'm curious how the combat works. It's going to listen to this while you play the game in the best universe in the world. You're going to go play best universe in the world. I mean, I'm a big fan of the Mass Effect universe. You might be thinking more along the lines of Lord of the Rings or something. You're definitely not talking about Harry Potter because that's nonsense. Painful Discourse, you get this week's points for reminding me that I'm on Top Chat. I'm always on Top Chat. Tony, I would never mute you. I'm going to be drinking the rum that you sent today. It's amazing. A new game, AGH. There's no... Like, you must really like the Dead Space universe, which is just space as far as I know. Elden Ring is the best universe in the world. Yeah, who knows? Who knows what AGH could possibly be talking about? Maybe he's saying like something profound, like his favourite universe is the real one and he's playing Gran Turismo or something stupid like that. Flight sim. Can't beat the real universe, eh? Halo had a good universe at one point, but as with all good things, like, and I mean all good things, I learned this at a very young age. If there's a story and a universe and narrative that you really enjoy, you can guarantee that greedy money people will piss all over it. I learned that from Terminator. Terminator 1 and 2 were brilliant. And then they just had to keep doing shit with it. Jump in the Forge playlist. get onto Halo. I could get onto Halo. I actually still, for all Halo's done wrong, it's one of the few games where I can actually see my enemies, so I still enjoy it for that. Anytime something gets a 3rd or 4th entry, it's downhill from there. It's not even... I wouldn't put such a fixed number on it. It's generally, you get something that a creative person dreams up and makes. And the point that it goes wrong is the point that someone says, make another, that they hadn't actually particularly wanted to. I'm going to drink some coffee. Did Pokemon used to have, like, a more endearing story? Did it have something to it that could be ruined over time? Because I get that it stayed mechanically very similar for a long time until the recent ones. And I get that they've milked the crap out of that franchise. But was it ever? You want to be the very best? Well, sure. And catch them all, yeah. Which is like perpetual unattainable goal, right? So it works for Pokemon to keep releasing new games because you've already sucked a load of people into thinking they've got to collect them all. So you just keep on adding to that collection and people will pay forever. Patrick, you reckon it's not ruinable? Tony, you want to kill Ash? Yeah. And Isla thinks that Ash is dead. Is my Twitter working on PC? Yeah, as far as I know. I know it's been doing some funny things over the last day or so. I try not to use Twitter. Twitter for me is horrible. Yes, it's working on PC. I can open up Twitter right now. It's there and working. There was a dog, which is not the worst thing that I've seen on Twitter. Hit the 20 tweet limit. See, I've got the Twitter blue thing. I have given money to that ridiculous endeavor because I want to use it to spread videos. I don't care for the platform. I hate the way that people use Twitter. I hate the quote tweeting fuckwits. Use the reply button if you want to reply to someone. But no, I am testing the waters with Twitter as a kind of secondary video distribution platform. And so far, kind of works okay. But we'll see. We'll see how that one develops. This is not a game, so I don't want to talk about it. Ash's final episode will make you sad. So they actually killed the kid in Pokemon. I actually had... so Twitter, with very short notice, decided that they were going to shut down free access to their API. Which should have concerned me more than it did, because the Game On Daily platform does have Twitter logins. You can log into the website with your Twitter account and you can... Oh, I haven't actually checked. So you can, if you're following someone on Twitter that also uses Game On Daily, you both log in with your Twitter and it'll establish that connection at Game On Daily. So you'll have those follows in place. And that might not work now if Twitter actually closed down the API. I will have to check that. I'm a very irresponsible platform owner. But the most responsible platform owner that we have, because Gaz won't even have considered this. Still, that's a thing. Testing to be confirmed. You don't follow the anime much, but you assumed that they were going to have him grow up. Growing up isn't the same as being dead. Like, some people might argue that it is, in a profound and sad way, but no. That's through every fault of your own, Isla. My Twitter doesn't look like that. I opened Twitter and saw a puppy. Like, literally. Let's see if it does it again. Oh, maybe Twitter just broke. I can see some boots. Some... Yeah, no, nothing like you're seeing, I'm afraid. Which is not sad news. What else though? So, being dead sucks. Pixel Slapper, welcome. Yes, it does. Kratos, welcome as well. Patrick, most things are Gaz's fault. Yes, yes, Peter. Mine and Gaz's, like, we are not very similar in the way that we think about many things, which is fine. Which is fine. That means we complement each other well, right? You know, this is off topic, but Nintendo charging $70 for the new Zelda. which probably runs at 25 frames per second and 480 interlaced, is rough. Yeah. Does anyone think it's a great idea that Nintendo are charging more money? Because topic is just games, and we can easily fluidly move it onto Nintendo. The main thing to look at today really is the stuff that was in Nintendo Direct. And part of that is that thing, Tears of the Kingdom. Now, you may know already, but I haven't played Breath of the Wild. I am still waiting for Breath of the Wild to go on sale, like properly from Nintendo directly on their online store. When Breath of the Wild goes down to a decent price, I will play it, but that hasn't happened yet. Tears of the Kingdom, the sequel coming soon, is going to be $70. I'm a little bit surprised that Nintendo haven't gone and said we're also raising the price of Breath of the Wild to 70 as well, because we're Nintendo and like this is the kind of thing that we do. But no, I think as far as I know, Breath of the Wild is going to remain $60 for all eternity, and Tears of the Kingdom is going to be 70, and everyone's going to buy it. But what do we think? What's their justification? Are we like cutting them any slack? Do we have any sympathy? Because obviously they're operating in the same economy as all of these other companies that have raised their prices. They aren't delivering new fidelity and things like Xbox and Sony and so on are doing, but no one's ever really given Xbox and PlayStation any kind of slack or leeway for exposing the new features of their consoles. So it's their justification to everyone else doing so. MG, it's like we are all people that buy games, so for all of us, we should all advocate for the lowest price that we can get without compromising like quality. In the case of Nintendo, so Microsoft in their pricing and Sony in their pricing, they've got different strategies to try and counter the increasing cost of development. And development costs for them have gone up over the many years, but they can counter that by growing their audience, right? So there's two ways they can recoup more money. They can sell things for more, or they can sell things to more people. Microsoft's strategy has been very much the more people approach. So that's the whole point of Game Pass and cloud and all the platforms they're going to. And Sony have pushed both avenues as hard as they can. So they've increased the prices before anybody else did, really. And they've started putting their games onto PC. But they're like slightly over on the scale from where Microsoft are, but taking a very similar approach. Nintendo don't have that expanding the audience avenue open to them yet. They obviously could. They could sell Nintendo games on PC and they'd make a ton more money, but they're Nintendo, and that's just like, I don't know, they're still operating in the 70s. So if they want to compensate for prices and things going up, realistically, charging more is the way that they're going to do it. But Zelda's obviously going to sell balls anyway. It's going to sell loads. It's freaking Zelda. I'm the only person that plays games that doesn't have Breath of the Wild. So they're bastards, right, for doing the 70 thing. Bastards. Curse you, Nintendo, and your stupid Mario prick stuff. Let's all throw switches over our shoulders. What's illegal? What's Tony done now? Kratos, you're going to be buying Metroid Remastered on the 22nd. How much are they selling Metroid Prime Remastered for? Kratos, you waited for Breath of the Wild, and it went down only $20 about 2 years ago. Did you buy it digitally or did you buy it from a shop? Because I'm sure you can get it cheaper, like retail somewhere. From a shop, I've seen very little in the way of sales, but you're not even sure where your Switch is. Patrick, I know exactly where my Switch is. If I just extend my ankle, my toe is touching my Switch right now. It has not been turned on for a long time. On the Switch, I have, it came with 4 games. So it came with the Mario Smash thing, Mario Odyssey, Mario Kart, and like it's one of the generic Nintendo party games, I think. And those, I don't care for any of those games. But I did buy Fire Emblem for it. And I also, for the sake of Tony, bought Scott Pilgrim, which is... I don't know why I did that. Tony, we're not going to play it on the Switch. We're going to play it on a better platform when we get to it, because it's on all of the other services anyway. Skyrim is $70 on Switch, so Zelda needs to be. Well, I mean, needs isn't the word, but yeah. Luap Nitsua, good evening. There may be, I don't know if anyone's going to come along, there may be some new people. My subscriber count has skyrocketed this week. I'm probably the second biggest channel on YouTube now. Had a video about PlayStation VR 2. Hopefully some of you have seen it, just talking about the games that I want when it launches. And YouTube pushed that video, got people watching it, and some new subscribers, so who knows, maybe some more people will see this. Yes, I made the thumbnail and gets all credit for the views that video got. Space Denizen, welcome. I don't know what we're talking about. What are we talking about? Let's look at some Nintendo stuff. So let's start actually with Breath of the Wild, because that's where we're already talking, and then we'll move on to Metroid Prime. In fact, so Tears of the Kingdom. I haven't actually watched. Nintendo Direct was... No, that's a stupid view. Nintendo Direct happened yesterday, day before, I don't know. I didn't watch it, I was out, so it must have been yesterday. I know vaguely what games are in it, but I haven't seen these, so this is my first time seeing the Tears of the Kingdom trailer. It looks grey. And the shrubbery looks shite. And the rocks look shite. And the grass doesn't look like grass, like the near-field grass does, but the rest of it looks like soup. But there was a fiery dragon thing, there's a big expansive world, there's a fiery moon, and it's nice and colourful, and Link is in it. Do you know, I know nothing about the world that these take place in. I'm learning as I go here, but you get I talk quite often about the Harry Potter universe being one that I'm not a fan of. I don't think it's a well constructed universe or well thought out. And there are some ones that are and some ones that aren't, but they all have their things about them. Like the Dragon Age universe, I'm very familiar with the lore of it and what to expect and what the different like creatures and races and characters are all about. I have no idea what the Zelda games are at their core. I played them on the Super Nintendo. I remember there being skeletons, but I don't actually know anything else about them. What defines these worlds? What makes them interesting? What's like the backstory to the various creatures that we're encountering here? I see birds. I've seen some weird things. Does it have lore, or is it just like... Is it just a vibe? Patrick can see through clothes. Interesting. Interesting. MG, you're going to buy day one, but it looks like DLC. So I've heard a lot of people say it looks a lot like the first one. You play Zelda over Horizon. See, Horizon, I understand the world. I didn't immediately like the world of Horizon when they announced it with its robot dinosaurs. That was stupid. But then as you go into it and explore it and uncover like layers to it, and it explains why these robot dinosaurs are what they are, the world kind of makes sense and the people in it make sense. And I don't see that in Zelda yet. But this is because I don't play Zelda. So it could be that Zelda has a really well constructed world that makes all kinds of sense to me, and I would love it if I got into it. Are there other people? You've got Link, who... Is he an elf? Is he a person? What's Link? And what's Zelda? And who else is in it? Are there people in the Zelda universe? I know nothing. I'm such a terrible Nintendo person. Evening Dodge. We're talking Nintendo. I'm asking questions more so than talking about it because I don't really know a lot about it. Peter Monand, anyone played Hot Wheels on Game Pass? If anyone hasn't played Hot Wheels on Game Pass, it's worth a crack. It's on PlayStation Plus as well, or it has been. I can't remember if it's a monthly game or if it's just on the service. But Hot Wheels is available everywhere, and it is a good game. It is a good game. It's very like it captures the feel of throwing toys around, and stands quite different to the Forza Horizon expansion around Hot Wheels. So, Link is a Peter Pan ripoff, and Nintendo should be sued. Yes, Dodge, I see that. I'm not sure he can fly, but he does never grow up. Like, Link's been around since I was a kid, so... I can see Painful Discourse. I've seen Painful Discourse earlier. He said "we" at the start. What else has Painful Discourse said? I'm scrolling. Painful Discourse has said no effing chance. Read your chats to validate your existence. I'm sorry. I really didn't mean to skip these. Next gen tax with no next gen. I've seen a few. We're here. I can see everyone. I'm just like doing a terrible job. I apologize. Keep the comments coming though. I will try and keep up as best I can. We do also have, as we have every week now, the Q&A feature of YouTube is there. So if you have comments that I cannot afford to miss, comments that I have to see, then stick them in there, because I will address everything in the Q&A box at the end of the show. Luak Mitsua, thank you. I cannot overstate how much work went into that video. It wasn't worth doing, but if I get around to part 2, I haven't decided if it's a 2-parter or a 3-parter yet, but if I get that series to its end, it's going to be way funnier than the first part. It's going to be really good. So I'm kind of excited to get that done, but also it was a big slow project. I'm hoping that that my workflow and method will have improved since last time, but I actually made that video like in the summer. I've probably forgotten how to do it since then, which is a concern. I'm going to need to completely re-establish my workflow there. Still, I'm sure it'll come flooding back. Dodge, have I started Dead Space? Look at the video. That's how far I've got in Dead Space. So give me like a show of hands or thumbs up, or just say yes or something if you're getting Tears of the Kingdom, either when it comes out or like in the near future. Do we have Nintendo people here whatsoever? What is that text in the background? What is that text in the background? Do you mean where it says cut off their limbs? Written in blood? Or is there some other text that's not supposed to be there? If you're wondering why this little table thing in front of me has a slight flicker to it, then there's a thing. Dodge is here. Cut off his thumbs. Yes. He is the expert. Yes, the text right in front of me has a slight flicker though. Like, why am I such a twat doing these things? How is the show enhanced by that moving? Don't know, but I did it anyway. And that's why I point it out, because otherwise I did it for nothing. Don't beat myself up. I can't comment on every post. Yeah, and if this gets like busier, then it'll be even harder. But it is a show of back and forth, and I don't like missing things that could spark good conversations and stuff. On the other hand, I do like it that you can all talk to each other as well. Like, lots of you are getting to know each other in this place as well. So chat between yourselves as well. It's all good. Can I do one of those little table things, but I'm in the bath or something? What? I can do a Twitch hot tub stream if that's what you're asking. Tesco had sandwiches for £100 this week. Oh, no, that makes a lot more sense. Tesco had switches for £100. That's a good deal. Sandwiches, not so much. I was tempted by the sandwiches though. Like, they must have been brilliant if they were. But no, they had switches for £100. That's curious. Switches are also still very pricey for what they are. The £100 BLT special, yeah. Yeah, we'll forget that I misread that. Right, let's talk about the next game. Nobody seems that interested in Nintendo, but we're still going to talk through them because they're doing some things that are a little bit interesting. And I've not got much else to go over this week. So, hardly anyone is getting Tears of the Kingdom, despite the fact that it is obviously going to reach like tens of millions of people and be one of the most popular games this year. Kratos, Pikmin 4. We'll get to Pikmin 4. Let's do Metroid first though, because I want to know if anyone has jumped on Metroid Prime. If anyone has any affection for the series in general. So Metroid Prime Remastered is also out now. And of the Nintendo IP, this is one of the more interesting ones to me that I think I would probably enjoy. But it still looks like pig shit. This looks like shit. Looks like shit. I'm sorry. The Switch needs to die. Still. Like, I really dislike Mario as a character, and that's well established. I've said many times my reasons for disliking Mario. I am very neutral around Zelda. I don't dislike Zelda and like that IP in the way that I dislike the Mario IP. But outside of those like Nintendo staples, if you go to their fringes and you look at things like I managed to forget what this was called, Metroid and Splatoon and things like that, I actually like their stuff. If you want to credit them with Fire Emblem, then I like conceptually some of Fire Emblem. So I'm not actually massively anti-Nintendo. It's funny I say that actually. I like the world of Metroid, but I don't actually like Metroidvania games, and Metroid is obviously a Metroidvania game, so that's a thing. YouTube is hard difficulty. It's working, isn't it? Yes, YouTube's working. Good. That was meant to be a question. Did you submit it as a question? See, I can't see those. The questions that you put into the questions box, I will see at the end of the show when we go through that little segment, which will be fairly soon. Today's, I think, a shorter show than usual. That's my plan, as I've got so little to talk about. But yet somehow we've passed a fair amount of time already and barely got through. Nintendo fans are the funniest. Dodge. Yeah, it kind of did look a bit shit. Like, not entirely. There were bits to the design, especially if you consider this is a game from like 2002 or something, where maybe it was really good at the time. I really don't like the HUD. So when they actually show gameplay in that trailer, I'm going to bring it up again just because. Metroid Dread. No, not Metroid Dread. The one that I just watched. And Halo is very guilty of this as well. But it has a visor. Extreme HUD mode. Don't like that. I never liked that in Halo either. I like absolute minimal interface wherever possible. And I know that in like a Metroid, you're supposed to have a helmet on presenting that HUD, and it's supposed to be all sensible and in universe, but it's still just like uglying up my screen for no reason. Don't need all that. God, it's really excessive. I kept it going while you weren't there. Look at that nonsense. Blah. I know the like textures look like mud and you might want to hide them with a stupid interface, but no, not for me. Still, Metroid Prime, how much does it cost? Oh, it's on the Nintendo Switch as well, so I've not even got a pleasant controller for it. The game looks good if it was 20 years ago. So MG, it's 20 years ago for the original. This version is like same geometry, so it's like the levels are the same, but they are completely rebuilt in terms of textures and materials and lighting and all that stuff. So it didn't look like that 20 years ago. At the same time, as a today game, as a 2023 game, it doesn't look like that either. Like, this looks like they remastered it 10 years ago. This is a problem with Nintendo. They are remastering a few games. There's a few, like, there's some GameCube games and things like that they're like, we're going to remaster this one and release it to modern audiences, but they're releasing it on the Switch. It's already dated. Wait until your next console and then drop loads of remasters at high quality. I'll take it. I've just been hanging around you too much. Any time around you, Tony, you could argue is too much, but I see she's speaking words I can't possibly understand. Anyway, that's Metroid. So who's on that? $40. So it's a decent price for a game, right? A lot of people love that game. Some people are playing it. Jeff Grubb loves it. It's like surely held up better than GoldenEye has. Remaster everything again in 5 years. Patrick, they surely will, yes. But those ones might be worth it. Like, I bet there's some Nintendo back catalogue that I would love to play at today's standards. It's just that the Switch can't deliver today's standards. Which is weird, because there are old games that I would go and play in their original form and not be sad that they looked old. I could go and play. I could fire up my Sega Saturn right now with Dreamcast or like the old Nintendo consoles for base games. I could play those and I could go, oh yeah, this is cool. But if you deliver a new game that isn't up to today's standards, it's for some reason far more upsetting. That's a me problem, rather than like a real issue. Would be great in VR. Everything, not everything would be great in VR, but most things would be great in VR. I also think the idea of a HUD, when I talk about like pancake games having an excessive HUD and it upsets me, having a visor in virtual reality would not be the same thing. I would be quite fine with that. Metro VR, everything VR. There will be in terms of like VR games this year, obviously PlayStation VR 2, and this is a big tangent, it's not Nintendo Direct at all. I haven't got a lot of VR stuff to talk about today because there's going to be loads of it in the near future and I don't want to kill you all. But in terms of things that are happening in the VR space, PlayStation VR 2 is obviously happening. The smarmy, nasty influencers have all started getting their headsets, as well as some nice people, like some decent people have got headsets. But it actually comes out in 2 weeks and is obviously a big deal in the VR space in terms of games and content around it. In the PC space though, which has been fairly dead for like a year, we're so close to modding heaven. That's going to be this year. So in PC VR, pretty much every game from the last 10 years that's been on Unreal Engine, so and that's 4 and 5, is going to be able to be modded into VR. So there's going to be no shortage of content just from that little development, which is pretty exciting. Not as exciting as native VR games, but still. So many games are coming to PC VR as a result of the modding scene. So that's cool. And then Facebook Meta are still doing some things right and a lot of things wrong. But the Unreal mod list is crazy. Yes, Space Denizen. So Prey Dogs mod, you've presumably been following. It's Flat to VR on Twitter as well. Various Discord communities, but yes, there are a lot of good mods coming, which is cool. They've already Hogwarts is already like not fully modded, but you can go into it in VR and play. They've shown footage of that through this mod pack. They haven't put it takes a little bit of effort. So you got this this mod that Prey Dog and one other person have made, works with pretty much any Unreal Engine game, in that you can go in there and see it from a VR perspective, but then it just needs someone to go in and sort out the controls basically. Very exciting for PC VR though, so I'm looking forward to that. If Gran Turismo 7 makes you sick in VR, you're gonna cry. Joe, I will, over the next week or so, I'm gonna do a little mini video that just gives some advice on how not to get sick. But we'll get you through it. And it does look really, really good, yes. Not a lot of marketing with VR from Sony. No, Painful Discourse, the marketing is a difficult one for VR in general though. I see a lot of people saying like, they should definitely show Gran Turismo 7, it looks amazing in VR. But what they're actually seeing is just Gran Turismo 7 on a screen. It's very, very hard to portray what it's actually like in VR. Like, to a normal person that doesn't care for the technology, you're just showing Gran Turismo 7 in the same way that they've seen it time and time again. So their approach to marketing seems to be a heavy reliance on word of mouth rather than show and tell, which makes a bit of sense because show and tell for VR is very, very difficult. Word of mouth can be more effective. So they're sending these headsets around to loads and loads of people and hoping that when they love it, they tell everyone they love it. Painful Discourse, I have a VR filter. If people mention it, I can't not see it. Dead Space remake in VR, yeah, why not? Why not? Weed, maybe. For Space Denizen, 2 of those are tips that I will give, yes. 2 of those are tips that I will give. I don't think I'm going to go on YouTube and tell everyone to smoke weed. Don't know what they feel about that, but could do. My channel's not precious right now. Maybe. Anyway, let's whiz through these Nintendo things. What else did Nintendo show? Do you follow it? Did any of you actually watch Nintendo Direct while it happened? I didn't. Like I said, I was out. Wednesdays are never a good day for me to watch things, but who likes Pikmin? Wow, I don't know anything about Pikmin. I had what was that other, the Nintendo console before the Switch, the Wii U. I had some kind of Pikmin game on that the children played a little bit. This conversation took a turn. Yes, they usually do, especially when I don't have a good structured list of topics. Things just turn all over the place. Luap Nitsua, you heard rumours. Power Wash Simulator is coming to VR. If you attach a spritz bottle to your face. Yes, even Power Wash Simulator will be better in VR. Actually, I laugh at that game, but I see some of the mod packs that they bring to it, like not mod packs, the DLC, like being able to go into the Tomb Raider world or the Back 4 Blood world and clean up messes. Does kind of sound funny. So give me those in VR and I will clean all sorts of things. Booberum in VR, there's definitely already going to be things along those lines. Painful discourse. You'd love Pikmin VR. So it would need a slightly different perspective to this, but yeah, otherwise, sure, me too. I actually really want what I really want for VR is like not Yu-Gi-Oh by franchise, but Yu-Gi-Oh by concept, a proper card summoning battler in like JRPG form. So you've got your cards or whatever they may be, and you throw them down and you summon huge freaking monsters to fight. That would be cool in VR. And I want a massive tactics story-driven Japanese RPG. So if you play Demio and you've got like turn-based grid games, dropping people, casting spells and things like that, works really well. And if you were to apply that to something like a Fire Emblem or a Deerfield Chronicles or something like that, that would also be incredible. So they're what I'm really hoping gets added to the palette, because there's not really anything like that in VR at the moment. You'd like a Gwent game like that. Exactly, John Dunn. A card game like that, except like way more visual. Just wandering around that kind of battlefield, summoning things. So much scope for VR. Yes, there is. It's one of the few things that... Not one of the few things. There's loads of things that are exciting. I was going to draw up a list at some point. I thought if I really run out of topics for the show one day, should have been today because I don't really have topics for today, I would draw up some little chart of what things are interesting and what things aren't, because the things that I find really interesting, I'm going to save for another day. And VR is obviously one of them. Picking your nose in VR. Sure. Sour and Grant, you watched it with the Iron Laws, was nearly finished when they sorted their stream. It was very amusing. Yeah. Streaming VR is a challenge, for sure. Removing stubble, who would do that? Have I played Half-Life Alyx? If so, how was it? Kratos, I've not actually finished it. It's really, really good. It is really, really good. I keep putting it off because I want the perfect playthrough. I've played a good few hours into it, and then I started over and played a good few hours into it. But each time that I've played Half-Life Alyx, I've tried to stream it, and then for one reason or another, fallen off of streaming for a little bit, and then felt that I needed to start again. Right now, Half-Life Alyx is waiting. I want to change my treadmill to one that's a bit more responsive, and I want to wait for that to happen before I play Half-Life Alyx, just to get it perfect. But it is very, very good. It's not necessarily the be-all and end-all of VR like people kind of herald it as, because it's very, very good in terms of gunplay. It's got very high quality, high budget design and like world building. The levels look phenomenal, but you can't punch stuff and stab stuff. So if it had that, if it had a better like melee physics system built in, then it would be like the perfect VR game. As such, it's just on a par with things like The Walking Dead because it's got different strengths and weaknesses. Alex tells a good story, is really clearly big budget and brilliant display in that sense. But Walking Dead Saints and Sinners lets me stab zombies with a spoon. Streaming in VR could be fantastic. I stream VR. I could do guides on how to do that. Oh, you mean streaming like streaming games Actually, before I even answer that, Luap, you tell me what you mean. What do you mean by streaming in VR? How much are the treadmills? Many monies. It's starting from like $1,000. It's more expensive where we are. Do a guide. No, Tony. It's my unique selling point. Being able to stream VR well is quite difficult. I am going to potentially do some guides on various things like streaming. How to stream in HDR is an example. How to make YouTube not look like shit. Because these are things that I've put a fair amount of time into myself. So I could share that information and help other people stream well. That's a good idea. You're out, no way you could afford. No, Pixel Slapper, it's not like that's good. Cold coffee that was mostly syrup. It's not a thing that will catch on and sit in many people's homes because it is obviously very expensive for what it is. It also takes up a lot of space and isn't perfectly compatible with everything that you want to play on it. So very, very much like enthusiast space device. But so if you streamed a game in VR and you had a headset, I see what you mean. Yeah, I think we're quite a long way off of that. So closest thing at the moment, there's a big difference between like proper VR and video, 360 video. And the closest you could realistically get would be streaming a 360 video, but that would be uncomfortable for you sitting in a VR headset. Because VR falls apart when you can't move your own head. So the only way to do it as like a good experience would be essentially to recreate the game on the other end of it. It would have to be, rather than like a system level solution, you'd have to have a game that had a spectator mode built into its engine or something like that. Yeah. Don't think anyone's going to put the effort in because it's too niche right now. But who knows what we'll get in the future. Tony, you stream on Switch by first throwing it into a stream. Yes. Yes. How to stream the Nintendo Switch. I could do that, Tony. I could do that. But I don't know. There's other things that are more specialist. Pixel Slappy, you just remembered to like the stream. That's what that means. Yes, everybody, please do like the stream. Even if you don't really like it, even if you're having a terrible time and you're thinking this prick should have brought some proper topics, we could have had some really good discussions if you'd put some effort in. Hit like anyway, and I'll do better next time. Probably, maybe. So, Light asked, was it? It's gone. Light X. So, the Activision Blizzard King deal. Dead. Dunno. It's definitely not simple right now, is it? I'm sure most people are pretty much aware that the CMA responded officially to object to Microsoft buying Activision Blizzard King. They set out a very long document explaining their position, and it's like 270 something pages, so no, I haven't read all of it at all. I haven't read any of it directly because I don't care enough. But the kind of high level points that they're making is that in order for the deal to go through, they really want structural remedies from Microsoft. So they want them to either sell off the Call of Duty and Call of Duty parallel businesses, so the studios that make Call of Duty and the IP itself, or they want them to sell off the whole of Activision, or they want them to sell off the whole of Activision Blizzard. And they are fairly insistent in their documents that they don't really like the idea of behavioral remedies. So they're not that interested in Microsoft coming back and saying, we're going to sign contracts and release Call of Duty on PlayStation for 10 years or whatever. Not completely closed off to it, but not keen on it. Is the deal dead? No, it's not dead yet. But it's all a bit of posturing. The deal will be done. What's it going to look like? The difficulty in it. So Microsoft can... I think, and I'm not a lawyer, and I'm not an analyst, and I'm not a person that cares about this deal. But from what I've seen of what the CMA have said, Microsoft can probably satisfy the PlayStation and Call of Duty argument. What's difficult is that they're also And CMA are also like very much opposed to Microsoft getting control of the cloud space, and they put this above the PlayStation space as far as I can tell. And it's very difficult for Microsoft to offer remedies in that space because their competitors aren't there. So who can they offer Call of Duty to? Like Nvidia maybe, but stick it on Luna. But it's very hard for them to offer contractual obligations to a space that doesn't exist yet. So I don't know what they're going to say to appease them. Microsoft themselves says that the whole deal wasn't about Call of Duty, so maybe they will divest it and say, look, the deal's genuinely not about Call of Duty. But Blizzard is worth a lot, but not the 70 billion price. You know, the saddest thing about Activision Blizzard King is that Activision owned Blizzard. I really have for the longest time, and Gaz will definitely back me up on this, for at least like 10 years I've really not liked Activision. And as Activisions go, like the history of video games, there's been some bad ones, there's been some like amazing studios shut down because they were acquired by money people and then no longer required a few years later. But Activision buying Blizzard, the whole Activision Vivendi Blizzard thing, is a travesty, because Activision are pricks. So all I want really from the deal, whether it be via going to Microsoft or via being broken up entirely, I just get rid of the Activision sinister evil prickness and I'll be happy. They're a nasty company. All those years when EA was winning like global world worst company ever awards 3 years in a row, and Activision was somehow sneaking under the radar, they're a horrible company. Activision and EA, well, Activision worse than EA for me, despite EA getting all of the heat for it. EA do bad things, but EA take a lot of heat for doing bad things. Activision are at least as bad, but somehow deflect attention, or they did for 10 years. Who tricked me into talking about this? Patrick. That's as far as I'm going to go with it. And it is only because it's a very slow news week. Light X asked, that's why. So they should sell off Call of Duty for a fair chunk to EA or someone, and if COD dies, it dies, and Sony's doing, and they use the rest of the studios, they can work on other games. What has been interesting is the number of times they've pulled up things that Microsoft have said and used it against them, which I find fairly entertaining. Like one of the parts of the document was pointing out that Microsoft themselves said that their competition isn't Sony, their competition is the likes of Amazon and Google, and that line has been used against them now. Like, yeah, they did say it, so fair enough. That means they have to appease the likes of that competition. That means that the whole cloud space has to be taken seriously, because for years Microsoft said it was going to be serious. So funny to see words come back and bite them. What's next? What else have we got? Have I got any more topics? Nintendo doesn't seem to get much buzz. There's not much back and forth on that one. No one seems to care. It's all playground behavior on a business scale. Yeah, I will be quite satisfied just letting that fly by, and I really don't care if it goes through or not. But it would be nice when it's over and people can start talking about games and things again. Which is what I try and do here, so let's not do any more Activision Blizzard King stuff. Let's get back to games. So there were some Nintendo things. Does anybody care for the Game Boy stuff? Because I saw this piqued my interest. I saw that the Game Boy and Game Boy Advance catalogs are coming to the Nintendo subscription. And I thought, hey, maybe I can play Final Fantasy Tactics Advance or whatever it is. Like there's 1 or 2 games, probably some Fire Emblem games, like things that only existed on those platforms that maybe I want to go and have a little look at. Probably won't get around to it because I've got a billion other games that I want to play. But maybe 1 or 2. And then I looked at the games available and they're all like Mario and Zelda and bullshit like that. So, blem. Well, there's no Fire Emblem games in the initial lineup as far as I can tell. So I will continue to ignore my Switch. But are there games in that library that any of you are looking forward to? You always meant to play Zelda, like an old Zelda either, or like current Zelda. You want to go back and play Game Boy Zelda? I think the online expansion pass thing has some of the more famous Zelda games already, in terms of like Nintendo's mainline platforms. But Game Boy and Advanced systems have great games. What though, Kratos? What are the ones that you're hoping come to it? And are any of them already there in the initial lineup? Because Nintendo obviously always had like a big focus on their handheld stuff, and some of their best games sit in that space. Which is what I mean when I say I'm kind of interested that they're bringing those. There might be some I'd like to have a look at. But the initial lineup didn't really do it. You played like 15 minutes of one on the Wii and then got bored. I played like 5 minutes of what's supposed to be one of the best games ever, Ocarina of Time. And I went, what is this shit? It looks like Mario 64, and I stopped playing in a strop. Because I hated Mario 64. Never had a Switch, never liked a Switch. Fair enough. Fair enough. I don't necessarily mind the Switch. I just wish there was like a Nintendo console that was actually intended to be played on a TV. And I know you can play the Switch, and it's still a portable console, really. I don't know. I like the hybrid idea, but it is long in the tooth and was too far behind even when it came out. So very far behind now. Elite Beat Agents on the DS. Do you get DS games on the Switch yet? I don't know. What's next? What's next? What's next? You just wear glasses. Switch jokes. We're making word game puns. Right. Octopath Traveler 2. That's coming out soon. I'm going to play that. Oh, I'm going to play that for sure one day. Not on the Switch, though. Not even going to show a trailer for that. Do we have any Octopath fans in the chat today? Because I'm one of those. Kind of. I'm a half Octopath fan and half bitter hater. I liked it when I started playing Octopath, and I hated it by the end. But I'm still going to play the sequel. Delicious sequel. SNES was good in its day. You've never heard of Octopath Traveler? Peter Morland. It was on Game Pass. You can go and play the first one. It's a bit of a sore point for some people. So Octopath Traveler came out on the Switch initially. Then it came out on the PC, and then it came out on Xbox and Xbox Game Pass, and it never came to PlayStation. Octopath Traveler 2 is releasing simultaneously on Switch, PC, and PlayStation, and not coming to Xbox at all, as far as we can see. So that sucks for the Game Pass fans that enjoyed the first one. Pixel Slapper, you're a Sega fan. I'm also a Sega fan. My foot is now touching a Dreamcast, and now it's touching a Sega Saturn. So yes, I also am a big fan. What type of game is Octopath Traveler? It's a Japanese RPG, very grindy, pixel art, turn-based, not like turn-based like a tactics game, but turn-based like a Final Fantasy VII kind of turn-based combat. Has some good systems, has some reasonable story beats, but isn't brilliant overall. A lot of people do really like it, but I found it quite enjoyable as a Japanese RPG, very much like old school styled. It was fun to play through. The combat and mechanics and systems are good. Story didn't converge in the way that I wanted it to, and the good bits of content, the main ending, basically the whole point of the story, is hidden in very obtuse ways that made me angry. Kratos just said Game Boy and Advance have great games just like any system. Yeah. Is this OnlyFans? Let's talk about my feet. No, but my consoles happen to be at like foot distance, so you're going to get it every now and again. I'm going to tell you what I am touching with my feet. I'm sorry. Okay, no more mention of those. I will remove them. Baz Crit Keeper, just a thought, cheap 3DS modded it will be. The shop closing in March. Would recommend if you like playing some of the classic Nintendo games for free. Oh, you just bought a cheap 3DS, modded it with the shop that's closing in March. I'm very confused. So you can get a 3DS that you can mod to just have the full library of games, essentially, is what I think you're saying, right? I'm assuming you can also emulate them very effectively on PC, although 3DS has its a whole weird screen layout. I don't know. I don't know how good that is to emulate on the PC. Embracer lending Tomb Raider rights to Amazon. I don't know if they lend them or if they sold them outright, but yes, Embracer buying Tomb Raider in amongst the studios and IPs for 320 million and then selling just that one IP for 600 million definitely makes Square Enix look ridiculous. Don't they make themselves look dumb all the time? They most certainly do. They most certainly do. They are a bafflingly silly publisher at times. And when they got rid of their Western studios, so they got rid of Eidos and Crystal Dynamics and their own Square Enix studio. I was kind of optimistic that they might actually fix themselves. I thought that like those were brilliant studios that Square Enix had mismanaged for a long time, but Square Enix are at their best when they stay as Japanese as they can be. So when they chase the Western audience, they fall flat on their faces. As we've seen with Forspoken, that's an attempt at global appeal, and they're not very good at it. But when they make games for their own audience, they do appeal quite well globally. Like Final Fantasy took off as a Japanese game that spread across the world, and it was good until they started to make it specifically for Western people. And I thought maybe Square Enix, now they've got rid of these Western studios, they're going to focus and they're going to make things like Deerfield Chronicles and Octopath Traveler and stuff that actually plays to their strengths, and everything's going to be okay. And then they started talking about NFTs instead. Exactly, Patrick. Maybe they need to invest more in NFTs. That'll fix them. They went completely off the rails. Rather than focusing on what they're good at, they decided gambling on NFTs is the way to go. So, slim hope that they'll keep managing to pump out like good RPGs, all with the same title font in the way that they do. But no trust in them as a publisher. And they are in hard on the NFTs thing. Like they're one of the only. A lot of publishers talked about it a year ago, like in the last set of results and things, to say that it was an area of interest, an avenue they're going to explore for massive billions. Most of them distanced themselves from it very heavily this year, but Square Enix are still all in. Like, love them, love them. Just let Sony buy them. Yeah, hopefully something like that. They obviously work very closely with Nintendo as well, so. Don't know where they need to go or what they need to change, but they definitely need fixing. Definitely need fixing at a leadership level. Not in the way that Activision do, where Kotick needs to go. Like, what a horrible person he seems to be. But you do not trust any digital with value. You do not trust any digital with value. You do not trust any digital with value. Speak English, Kratos. I can't translate it no matter how many capitalized words you use. That Power Wash sim though, Square Enix was Power Wash sim Square Enix. Oh, that's wild. I didn't know that. Let's do it, shall we? Should we move on to the questions at the end? That's going to happen any second now. On this very Nintendo-focused show, unless anybody has any last-minute topics to throw in, which could come up through the Q&A box as it goes. NFT, crypto, all a scam. Yes, Kratos, I am inclined to believe it. I don't completely dismiss the technology, but I've not seen a good use case for it yet. I've not seen a good use case, and it is unfortunately rife with scams. So even if there is a good use case, it's hard to see it through the rubbish. Digital value need not be a scam if the product is not rubbish. I don't know enough about it. Like, I wouldn't completely dismiss like the whole concept of blockchain out of hand if someone can give me a use case for it that makes sense. And I just haven't seen that yet. And I've seen so many bad things around it, so many scams, so many terrible, terrible things. It's being misunderstood. Quote from Square. There might be some truth to it though. Like maybe someone somewhere has noble intentions with it. I think the whole blockchain concept started off of noble intentions and soon fell off. When you say not rubbish, you mean this shit currently being peddled? Yes. Any product has a manufactured value to it. It all depends on supply and demand, hype of value. Yeah, I'm not the person to give any kind of justification to it though. Like, I've not seen that good use for the blockchain yet. Like the idea of digital ownership shouldn't be evil at its core. But you know, you put out like an unregulated financial system and bad guys will win. That's the way it works. Bad guys have very much been winning in that space. What's the main game that I'm looking forward to playing this year? As I'm all over virtual reality, which isn't the answer that most people want. I'm sure a lot of people will yell like Starfield from the rooftops. And I am looking forward to games like that, but VR excites me more. So, what is coming out this year though? So obviously Starfield is going to be a big game and I want to play it. I'd much rather it was available in a headset, but as pancake games go, yeah, that's a big one. Of Microsoft's catalogue though, it's not so much this year, but I really want to play Avowed. And that definitely won't be this year, but that's their title that I've got a most keen eye on. I like Obsidian a lot. We own digital games, yes. Well, yeah. RWK, welcome. You hope that Atomic Heart is good. I also hope that Atomic Heart is good, and I also don't trust Atomic Heart. Like, we're getting this close to launch, but I still don't trust it. It could be phenomenal. If it lives up to the trailers, then absolutely. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see on that one, and we'll see very soon. It's only like a couple of weeks away, isn't it? Well, that's another thing we could have spoken about. A few things just came to Game Pass. Shadow Warrior 3 is about to drop in like a week. That'll be worth a little blast through. Atomic Heart is coming soon. You agree you don't really want to pay £70 for a game you can't play a few years down the line. So we did last week. We spoke a bit about the Redfall situation. So I probably won't recover it today. But Russians make good nukes. You don't know about games though. Okay, I'm not touching that. I don't know. Do they? They definitely have a lot of nukes. I know that much. But I'm not a nuke reviewer. I don't know the scale of good to bad nukes. I assume like good nukes are probably the ones that don't work. Those are the ones that I prefer anyway. This nuke is a fake 10 out of 10, like this one. Let's do these questions. The day before. Yeah, there's a scam like abandoned. So, first question. Patrick wants more kids. Should I give him more? That is definitely a question from Tony. And Tony, I don't want to get too involved. I think you two should work that out for yourselves. So, burden of that one is too great for me. I'm just going to steer well clear of it. Joe, in my opinion, what's the best way to market VR games to those that already have VR headsets? Are VR trailers a thing? And if not, are they feasible technically? It would be very nice if, like, the storefront, so once you've already got a VR headset on your face and you're browsing the storefronts, if they would construct some kind of VR trailer, but technically feasible, very, very difficult. You essentially need to download some version of that game to play a trailer that's comfortable. So I'm very against 3D video. Like 3D video is not quite the right word, but you know, the VR porn, essentially, like films and things that surround your face. I think those are a horrible experience. And not specifically porn, but the format of video. So trailers that you can watch like that don't sell the experience very well. It is a difficult thing. So even if you've got a VR headset, it's very difficult to push VR content to it and market it. But the bigger challenge, though, is definitely people that haven't got a VR headset. It's what they really need to figure out. How can you sell the experience to people that don't have it? It's very challenging. Very challenging. Don't know the answer, Joe. Don't know the answer. Next question. Here it comes, here it comes. Tony and Patrick are fighting. Luap Nitsua, I'm sure I'm saying that wrong, but also if you pay £70 for a pair of jeans, you don't want a day one patch because they're torn. Yes. Painful discourse, you were joking. This is from earlier. I would never ignore you on purpose. Painful discourse. I saw you right there at the start with the Wii, so all good. Asa is very much against VR porn. Be specific, Azu FDU. Then people will have the questions. YouTube doesn't support clips very well, so I can say whatever I want. Asa, Nando's soon. Yes, Starge, absolutely. I need to figure out an in-between place that makes sense to do a Nando's, and we will. Next. Do you genuinely believe that Starfield will be the holy grail of gaming this generation? You really hope it is, as it could easily be. The question disappeared halfway through. It could easily be your dream game. But what do me and others think? Like, the holy grail of gaming is not a real thing. So no, I wouldn't go that far. But it's potentially a landmark game like Skyrim is. I still play Skyrim, as you know. I play it in VR, but it's still Skyrim. I haven't got through Fallout yet because I'm still stuck on Skyrim. Starfield can definitely be that game for a lot of people. I can't see any other way of this like turning out, because it is going to be another Bethesda game with those systems on systems on systems and complicated mechanics and a mod scene that lasts for at least a decade. So yes, I think it will be that and more for a lot of people. For me, I might still prefer Skyrim, if that makes sense. Because I'm still on that. Like, Starfield was initially sold as like Skyrim or Fallout in space, and it is, by virtue of being the newest of those games and on a new engine and all the rest of it, you expect an additional layer of depth and an additional layer of things that you can do. Like, the potential is greater. So yeah, it has to be all of the things that those games were in a different setting, and that is enough. Like, that is a fine ambition for that game. I do like Skyrim more. You're starting to wonder about Starfield, but playing Skyrim again has restored your faith in it. Yeah, like some people said that Skyrim in space thing with like a dismissive tone, like, oh, it's just Skyrim in space. No, Skyrim in space is a friggin' awesome prospect. Like, hell yes, make it Skyrim in space. Fallout in space and all the rest of them. Bigger, better, more potential. Yes, it's a big event of a game. All you know is that you keep your expectations low with any game and hope it does well. It's going to be full of bugs. It's going to be a mess. Like, it, of course it is. That's part of these things. Skyrim is still a buggy mess. Starfield will be a buggy mess. But I don't think that will stop its quality shining through. Next up, do I genuinely... Nope, that's the same question. Next question, please, if there are more. Starfield will be sold for years to come. It will be modded for years to come. It will have anniversary editions in decades to come. And it will be played... For some people, like... And it is a relevant point on the whole Game Pass thing. Because for some people, they'll get Starfield and they won't play anything else for a few years. Which is... like an interesting model for a game. And I'm glad that it does still exist and that they are making it like that, because obviously Bethesda did, and ZeniMax did kind of move away from that formula for a little while. They did try and go more towards service games that have continued monetization in favour of the likes of Starfield. So it is a good thing that those games kind of flopped to a degree. Fallout 76 and such. Starfield will receive an 81 on Metacritic. Yeah, the Metacritic score doesn't matter for a game like that. I think it'll get higher. I think people will give it a level of respect like they did Fallout and Skyrim. So I don't think journalists are completely blind to the scope of these games. But whatever the Metacritic score is and whatever the motivations behind it, I don't think will make a big difference to how the game performs or how much people enjoy it. You're playing Age of Empires. Which Age of Empires are you playing, Isla? Are you playing Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition, or are you playing Age of Empires 4, or are you playing one of the original releases? The first one, you're playing actual Age of Empires. Why are you playing Age of Empires and not Age of Empires 2 or Age of Empires 4? Do you prefer it, or is it just the one that you have to hand? Ponies will try to drop the review score. Well, they can do that. That's fine. How much publications have been downplaying Starfield over the last year? The game is going to surprise a lot of them in a positive way. Yes. It's weird that, like, for that game to be able to surprise anyone is strange to me because it's Skyrim in space. What more do you want? And that's what it will be. Bigger and better and more advanced, of course, but still Skyrim in space. You decided to play them all in order. Are you going through the campaigns? They're not like chronological sequels though, are they? They're just different eras of history, so you could play them in any order and have a great time, I'm sure. But that's fine. You go through it. You go through that first campaign, and then the second, and then the third, and then the fourth. Tony, you are a vampire. That's good to know. Sci-fi and fantasy are two sides of a coin that you think there are as many people wanting on Starfield as play Skyrim. Yes. And I do enjoy both. I usually prefer my space stories a little more fantastical, so Halo and Mass Effect kind of vibes more so than the Starfield looks a bit more grounded, but I have a lot of love for both settings. Skyrim, I mean, if you were to tell me that Starfield is like VR on day one, so that the choice became then Skyrim VR, Fallout VR, or Starfield VR, then I would have a choice to make. Don't know what the answer would be. I'm going to take that one away and think about it. Which setting would I, and like which game would I actually want to play if all three of them were available in that format? Difficult to say. Ali, you just decided to make up for not playing them when you was a baby. I'm not going to read Beb. Don't know what that means. Yes. Question to me and the audience. Oh, this is one that everyone can answer. Right. Would people still know this was Q&A, sir, if we didn't use the branding on the thumbnail initially? You're wondering if a non-branded thumb would catch more new people. So, people in the audience, and this is definitely more a question for the audience than me because I've got no freaking idea how YouTube works and thumbnails and that. If the initial event, the YouTube event, was set up on a Thursday, 5 minutes before the show is due to start, because that's what I'm like, would you still come along if it didn't say what it was on the thumbnail? Or is that like essential wording that catches your attention? Final choices between games is a great idea, is it? Oh, you want me to do like a ranking system to determine the best game ever? Start pitting games against each other and picking one over the other? Yeah, but so what's the word? I normally have a good word for this. I'm fickle, that's it. And like you could ask me the same question the following week and I might pick the other game. But sure, that could be a fun activity at some point. Salmon Grant, you're going to be wherever, regardless of how we push the event. Good to know, thank you. John Marks, you hope Bethesda don't lock out the modding community for Starfield. They're not going to. The bigger question for Starfield modding is whether now they're inside Microsoft, whether they can open it up in a more expansive way on the console side. Which they haven't said that much about, but I'm hoping for a pretty full-fledged modding scene on console as well as PC. More so, like Skyrim and Fallout had mods on console, but more limited than the PC space, and I'm hoping they can blow that open. Luap Nitsua, you like the smaller audience is better for us? Yes, that's cool. It does. Yeah, the format of the show and the running of the show might change a little bit when we get to a point that I can't keep up with chat. Blah, 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 blah. But yeah, we'll keep it going like this. It's all good. I'm not expecting suddenly like 1 million people in here, so we'll keep up and we'll keep the chat going. I will also stream more games as well for extra chat time. And for the sake of actually playing games. I get on and do it when I'm streaming it. So With the PSVR 2 video, you were trying to make it look vaguely PlayStation branded, and you think it helped. So you're wondering if doing that with the Q&A thumbs. Yeah, I don't have the answers, but I are very welcome to experiment and see what happens. Gauge it by results. Because I think the people that are here now, like most of these names are people that are here every week, so I think that's a safe bet. I don't think anyone will mind if you change it around. Don't forget about you when I'm famous. Patrick, I will not be famous. I will not. So, no concerns there. Space Denizen, you'd rather play the Outer Worlds in VR. I would love to play the Outer Worlds in VR. I would. Oh wait, next question. Party tea. Can't remember what that is. So, do you think if PlayStation VR 2 doesn't succeed enough, or Sony treats it like the first iteration, it can be a detriment to the VR tech in general? Yes. I don't think, like, not in a way where I'd say, oh, Sony's made VR worse and less popular than it would have been if they didn't try. But like at the moment, a lot of hope is pinned on what they're doing in terms of VR as a gaming technology. Because the other big player that's investing money into it, or the other big players, because Apple are obviously trying as well. You've got Meta, whose ambition and motivation is not centered around people having fun playing games. And you've got Apple, whose motivation is not centered around people having fun and playing games. We get some games on those platforms. Meta have this Peaky Blinders game coming soon that looks quite good, and they have previously in the past, more so when they were Oculus, put out a lot of big games in the VR space. But we all know that their ambition is not gaming. It's their stupid metaverse. And same for Apple, they're not in it for gaming. So PlayStation carry a lot of hope for making the cool stuff, and it will be sad if it doesn't succeed. But also it won't be like the end of VR. VR is such a natural evolution of games. No matter how many times Xbox people tell me it's just a fad or they don't understand it, they're being disingenuous. Of course they understand it. Everyone inside and outside of games has envisaged that as the future at some point, even if you don't like the technology as it stands today. So we'll get there one way or another. You also mean more on the dev side. So the dev side is, obviously there's going to be people like in the indie space that are passionate and want to make those things because they want that scene to grow. But in terms of big money going into it, publishers and AAA games, yeah, it needs to succeed in that sense. Like AAA games are not viable in that space at the moment. And Sony, typically, like the whole concept of being able to split development between pancake games and VR games, like hybrid development approaches, I think do pretty much rely on this one seeing some kind of success, or obviously a runaway success in the PC space, but that's not happened yet. And I don't totally discount Valve as well. When Valve do release their next headset, that'll see a nice bump in the PC space as well. If Game Pass does succeed, maybe Microsoft will invest in VR game production. Nah, Microsoft are pricks. Game Pass succeed. It's not like Microsoft can't afford to do both. If they wanted to invest in VR game production, then they would do so. The thing with Microsoft is VR, for me, my understanding of it from the outside, is that virtual reality runs contrary to what Microsoft want for gaming, which is to make it as easy to do as possible. They want to bring gaming to as many people as possible by taking down any barriers. So the need to own a console and things like that, these are considered barriers that Microsoft are not interested in. They want to go the other way. They want to make it easier. They want gaming to just be there on your TV so you can go and do it. They're probably desperately trying to figure out a way to let people play games without needing an Xbox controller, rather than VR, which is the opposite direction, where you need more hardware, more investment. So much as they have the capacity to do both, they clearly don't have an interest in VR at the moment, which is a shame. A new Uncharted in VR would be nice. All of Sony's big games in VR would be nice. Like if they make it a staple of their first party output that their games do support VR, then obviously that will be a big help for the technology. But if they can get third parties to play the same, like play along to the same tune and also make games Pancake and VR, then you'll know that they're now winning. So, but we're not there yet. Indie developers today have the same issues as they had 30 years ago. The route to publishing is the big deal. Yes, and it's like, I assume it's easier now than it was then, because there are platforms that you can self-publish on, more so now than then. You can self-publish to Steam a lot easier than you could self-publish to like brick and mortar stores 30 years ago. But yeah, getting like self-publishing and then actually getting attention on your game are like a big distance apart. Either you want VR to be big, it will eventually. You don't think they're pricks? They're just risk averse after. No, they're pricks. Painful discourse. I agree with their decision not to bring VR to Xbox. Like, it makes a lot of sense. They're not pricks in that sense. They can be averse in that sense, but they're pricks for not putting VR into Forza. And I will say that again and again and again. Like, they are in a position where they could massively help VR in the content space without really putting their backs out very much at all, and they just choose not to. So for that reason, I say that they're pricks. Connect game where you could get the baby tiger. Yeah. Right, thoughts on the Resident Evil CGI movie? Is this the Death Island thing? Space Denizen, yes. Index has apparently been taken off of Steam, strongly implying that we're about to hear about Valve's next effort, which is exciting. So Valve Decad is the Valve Dickhead is rumored to work as a standalone headset. That doesn't interest me. I'm not interested in standalone stuff very much, but it is also the next iteration of Index. So Valve have also recently got rid of production of the base stations. So the Valve Index headset and the previous HTC Vives all used them outside in tracking with base stations on the wall, and Valve used to make them, but they've completely stopped that and handed that over to HTC, which strongly implies that they're about to have a inside out camera kind of system like all the other headsets have. It's coming very soon. And hopefully it comes alongside a new Valve flagship VR game as well. This time around, PlayStation considered VR due to the console design. This time around, PlayStation considered VR due to the console design. Gran Turismo 7 and Resident Evil 8 planned for VR from the start of development. That's hopeful and good. Yeah. I actually said for quite a while, the whole design of the PlayStation 5, I don't think they thought of VR because the PlayStation 5. I think the PlayStation 5 is designed around VR in everything. Like, every new feature of that console is built to make VR a good experience, right down to like the features in the controller, the resisting triggers and the haptic feedback. Those are VR features that bled over to the base controller, but the research into those was for the sake of virtual reality. I'm positive of that. The speed of the hard drive is a VR feature. It works very well for pancake gaming, but it's essential for virtual reality that you don't sit there looking at loading screens. And obviously the port being on the front of the console is a no-brainer. The PlayStation 5 is a VR console for me, and the fact that those things also seep across and benefit pancake games is a bonus. Like, that works out. MG, were you the only one that was hyped for Young Conker with the HoloLens? Don't know what that means, Young Conker. Yes, the USB-C port on the front, absolutely. Your new laptop only has USB-C. Yeah, it's USB-C. Blah, blah, blah. I don't know, I've forgotten what I'm talking about. Microsoft just let all their VR and HoloLens focused staff go in the recent layoffs. Yes, John Rocks, this is a big shame. The Microsoft VR ecosystem and the PC space was only about 2 people anyway, but they did a good job. Like, those headsets worked well, and they followed open standards that could potentially have made VR a good place in the future. But yes, they are gone. Microsoft are moving away from it, and none of that would stop them from putting Forza in VR on the PC. But the bastards stand by that until they do it. Risk averse on the Xbox. Yeah, I Painful Discourse. I actually kind of agree with their stance of not bringing it to the console. I don't agree with it. I would like them in an ideal world to bring VR to console as well, but I totally understand not doing that. Especially after, like you say, Kinect and all the rest of the things that they've had thrown back in their faces. So, Conker's bad third day character in the tech demo for HoloLens. Anything with Conker in it. I understand what you're saying. HoloLens, like, I'm less interested in mixed reality than in virtual reality in general, but HoloLens was an interesting piece of technology. They can't have ditched it completely because they still have their contracts with the American military, so there must be some people that are capable of developing that technology, but yes, they have totally ditched the consumer side of it. Right. Enjoy the rest of the evening, mate. Take care, bud, and looking forward to more of your content, bud. Who said that? Who says bud a lot? Luap Nitsua, thank you. There will be more content of some kind, split between here and the Game On Daily channel. Yes. Shit flinging in VR. Yes. Too late. I did read it, Painful Discourse. I couldn't help it. They lost the HoloLens contract. I didn't think they did lose it. I thought they had a different contract awarded very recently for a version 2 of it. Ubisoft Plus in Game Pass rumours. What are my thoughts? It's a shame that Ubisoft haven't released anything recently. So Ubisoft Plus in Game Pass, Ubisoft Plus on Xbox, we know it is happening. That's well established. They talked about it a long time ago. To what degree it goes into Game Pass or is available outside of Game Pass as a separate subscription is a bit of a mystery at the moment. My assumption was that they'd do the EA thing where their Vault tier, which doesn't exist at the moment, but they're a new tier of like old Ubisoft games, would be included in Game Pass, which it kind of already is. Like, Ubisoft games are quite a common occurrence in Game Pass, but they'd make it more formal, so every Ubisoft game, goes into Game Pass at some point. My hope was that the Ubisoft Plus main subscription that's currently available on the PC would also work on consoles. So at the moment, the Ubisoft Plus subscription works on PC, it works on Stadia before Stadia closed down, and it works on Luna. So I would think Ubisoft would have been trying to angle for keeping it as a separate subscription that works across platforms and putting their day one games in there, but it's not something that I know if Microsoft would be particularly willing to go along with. They obviously haven't done that for EA yet, so it's definitely coming though. There was a whole list of games that suddenly started getting Ubisoft tags in the Microsoft Store backend database, and I'm sure those are all real and coming to the service in the very near future. But Ubisoft haven't released anything recently enough to be able to determine like if new games are going to be included in one way or another. So from what you read, it was cut severely, the HoloLens contract, but you're not sure by how much. Yeah, so HoloLens was making soldiers sick, right? So I'm not sure if it was cut rather than it just wasn't extended, but either way, they didn't want more of it, but I thought they awarded them a new contract, a much smaller contract for an improved version, like a new almost prototype. Go and make it better, and then we'll see about buying more. The military contract was downgraded from buying 4 billion of the headset to 40 million in investigation after the whole HoloLens team was disbanded. Yeah, so maybe it's gone entirely. I don't know, but the gaming side of it definitely seems to have been cut. Right. Oh, here we go. Another question. Does the VR Walker emulate a controller, or do you always need a driver and game support? PlayStation VR 2 incoming. Yes, it can. It's a little bit complicated. It doesn't... So, On the PC, it emulates controller input essentially, but Steam has very flexible controller options. So the treadmill isn't just giving you like an analog stick input, it is separating out the direction of your body and head and controlling direction according to that. So it does a good job there, but it is still essentially controller input. And the biggest issue with it in the PC space is that the movement is limited to what a controller can do in that game. So a lot of VR games, Walking Dead, Saints and Sinners is a good example, have a walking pace and a sprinting pace. With, like, if you're playing it ordinarily, you'd have a button toggle, and translating that to the treadmill isn't particularly good. Half-Life Alyx is another one. It just has one walking speed, which you can configure to make it nice and fast, but you can't like have the treadmill set to let you walk or run at your own pace. Whereas games, like, there are a lot of games that do have that. On the PlayStation side of it, they definitely won't have driver level support. They will be emulating controller input. This thing doesn't exist yet though. I don't know how it's going to work until I've tried it, how effective it's going to be. If it works like it does on the PC, then I'll be happy enough. I can run around, like, it's very fun running around Skyrim even if it's not perfect. So. On the very rare, like, it's funny, not funny, kind of annoying. The ideal setup for a game is a game with an analog stick, like you get in most pancake games, where if you press the analog a little bit, then your character walks, and if you move it more, then they move faster. That's very easy to translate to different speeds on a treadmill. And VR games aren't very good for implementing that because they're just not. Hopefully they'll get better at it now that analog sticks are on all of the VR controllers. But it means that all of the modded games, all of the Unreal games that are going to be coming should work very well on the treadmill. So, it will be part of the Game Pass. Ubisoft Plus with a big price increase. The day one Ubisoft service, I can't imagine will be part of Game Pass unless it's a significant price increase. Because this is like the £100 a year service. Like Ubisoft Plus costs as much as Game Pass already. Same for EA. They've got their £20 a year service is what's included in Game Pass Ultimate, and their £100 a year service is not. Ubisoft like kind of follows the same pricing structure, except that the £20 tier doesn't currently exist. So we'll see very soon. And I think for a show with no topics, we somehow managed to run the kind of full length that we usually do. My voice is already beginning to go. I didn't drink my rum and ginger beer yet, but I'm going to go and do that. Pavlov Firewall Ultra, Resident Evil 8. If it works, you're in. John Rocks, the only thing I will say is it's not necessarily going to help you in a competitive game. It's a lot of fun, but you'll find on a treadmill you move a lot more naturally than you would with a controller. You're less likely to strafe as fast as you would with a controller. But for Resident Evil 8, definitely, I will use it for Pavlov and Firewall Ultra, but I will probably be a hindrance to my team. And things like Skyrim and stuff. I know Skyrim isn't on PSVR 2 yet, hopefully it will be, you never know. There will be many games where it is well suited, but John Rocks, I definitely wouldn't suggest going and buying it for the PlayStation right now. As soon as I get hold of all the tools and the company that makes it, get it working with the PlayStation VR 2, I will give you the in-depth details of exactly how it works and how it doesn't. You're in it for the fun, yes, and the added bonus that it doesn't really make you motion sick if you're running instead of using an analog stick. So there are advantages to a treadmill as well. So I'm going to say, I need to come up with a good way to like sign off at the end of the show, but I'm not very charismatic and I don't have one. So I'm just going to say thank you again, everyone, for coming along. If you are watching afterwards, please make sure you like the stream, leave me a comment, things like that. Next week's show, I've got a funny feeling there's going to be a big list of topics. Loads of stuff is going to happen over the next week. It might be indigestion. There's definitely a funny feeling going along. Either way, we'll make the best of it next week. There will be a stream of some kind, maybe tomorrow. I'm definitely going to get the game streams going again to kind of pad out content and make sure that I'm actually playing games and give me more chances to talk to you, because that's a fun way to go. Go Live on Saturday has Han Solo and Randall Thor lined up, ready to go. And yeah, everything's going to be brilliant. So thank you very much once again, and I will catch you in the near future. You've been queued.